Entered burnout detect mode.
Electron has successfully cleared the pad.
Avionics LD mission.
Go ahead.
Please proceed with sequence 48. Enable AFTS for flight.
Copy that.
Well, it's hard to believe that only 3 weeks ago, we flew our previous mission, Return to Sender, our rideshare launch that included 30 successful satellite deployments, a garden gnome that helped raise nearly $300,000 for charity, and last but certainly not least, our first Electron recovery. For the very first time, we brought Electron back to Earth underneath a parachute and fished it from the ocean a few hundred kilometers downrange from where it had launched just moments earlier. Our first Electron recovery was a huge milestone for the team and our recovery plans, and is setting us on a strong path to make Electron a reusable launch vehicle. We caught up with our CEO, Peter Beck, earlier this week for a quick update on all things recovery.
Congratulations to the recovery team. That team has pulled off a miracle with re-entry of Electron in the first ever attempt. So in the Return to Sender mission, we set out to achieve a number of things, and all of those things increase in complexity and risk. The first thing was to reorientate the stage and get it in the right angle of attack. We've done that a couple of times before, so that was obviously very successful. And the next big thing was to start deploying the parachute systems. And we ticked off each one of those milestones one by one in a very successful manner, and then ultimately splashed down the stage at a really low velocity into the ocean in wonderful condition. So that was kind of like the giant tip. And in fact, there's even components on that stage that we intend to refly in an upcoming mission. So the thing I'm most excited about reusable Electron is two things. One, we can offer many, many more flight opportunities because we don't have to build so many rockets. And right now, we're pushing one Electron rocket off the line every 30 days. If we can reuse Electron, then we can create a lot more flight opportunities. Equally well, if we can reuse Electron and get them back in the condition that we're hoping now, it completely changes the economics of the small launch industry, which I think for our customers is really exciting. Electron is a reusable rocket. It's a great milestone, and I guess something a few years ago that I didn't even think was possible, so that makes it even more sweet.
We're really looking forward to our next recovery attempt in the new year, but as a reminder, we will not be attempting to return Electron's booster to the factory with the mission this evening. We're now at T-minus 3 minutes to liftoff, with all systems green in the final countdown, so I'm going to hand you over now to the operators in Mission Control to listen in on their final calls ahead of liftoff.
Computer as goes a green.
Confirmed.
Recon, please lock the auto sequence and confirm.
Locked.
All stations LD on mission. We are currently go for auto sequence start at T-minus 2 minutes. And at this time I can confirm LD is go for launch.
All AV bats have been switched to internal power. Vehicle is on internal power.
LOX load is complete. System is in recirculation. Anti-gas ring disabled.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 are at pressure.
High flow engine purge is enabled. Deluge activated.
T-minus 20 seconds and counting. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
Engine
3,
start.
2.
Entered burnout detect mode.
Electron has successfully cleared the pad at Launch Complex 1 and is on its way to orbit. We're at T plus 50 seconds into flight, and we're quickly approaching max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure, and that's the moment in Electron's ascent when the pressures on the vehicle are at their peak. We'll be coming up on max Q in around 10 seconds or so.
Approaching max Q. And cleared max Q.
And we just heard the call there. Electron has cleared max Q without any issues and is continuing on its way to space.
Stage 1 guidance is nominal.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal. Stand by for MECO in approximately 30 seconds.
Very soon the vehicle will shut down its Rutherford engines on the first stage to slow the rocket down before the first and second stages separate. This is a milestone during launch that we call main engine cutoff, or MECO. After the stage separation, the Rutherford engine on Electron's second stage will ignite to propel the stage to orbit. So let's listen in for those calls.
MECO confirmed.
Stage separation successful.
Stage 2 ignition confirmed.
And we've had confirmation of MECO and ignition of the engine on Electron's second stage. In just a few seconds, the fairing atop Electron that protects the satellite during ascent will be jettisoned. Once Electron has cleared the Earth's atmosphere, there's really no need to keep the satellite enclosed in the fairing, so we jettisoned the fairing halves ahead of payload deployment to reduce weight on the way to orbit.
Stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
And that's a successful fairing jettison. So Electron's second stage is continuing to orbit as we approach a process unique to our rocket, a maneuver that we call the battery hot swap, and that's coming up in around 3 minutes' time. Due to the time of liftoff and positioning of the rocket, we're not going to be able to see too much in terms of views of the Earth this evening. But what we can see is that we're at T plus 4 minutes into the mission. And as we mentioned before, our next major milestone coming up is the battery hot swap.
Stage 2 guidance nominal.
If you take a look at the top right of your screen, you'll see the live telemetry coming down from the vehicle. Electron continues as expected at a speed of 12,000 kilometers per hour at an altitude of 174 kilometers, with hot swap coming up in just over a minute. Because our Rutherford engines are electric pump fed, they quickly drain the batteries we have on board to power Electron. So we switch out the batteries right at the optimal moment for a third new one and a seamless transition of power source. The battery hot swap is scheduled to occur just under 6 minutes into the mission, and we're approaching that timing shortly.
Battery jettison confirmed.
Hot swap successful.
Stage 2 propulsion nominal.
We've had confirmation that battery hot swap was successful on Electron, and second stage propulsion is continuing nominally.
AFTS is saved.
For those of you just joining us, on our 7th launch of 2020, we've had a successful liftoff, main engine cutoff, stage separation, and second stage ignition, and we're about a minute and a half away from separation of the kick stage from Electron's second stage. Electron is currently traveling at a speed of 20,000 kilometers per hour at an altitude of 202 kilometers.
H3 battery discharge.
We've got a nice view of that Stage 2 Rutherford engine on your screen with Electron well on its way to orbit. This second stage carries the kick stage that the Strix Alpha satellite is attached to before the payload is deployed to its final orbit. We're now approaching Stage 2 separation from the kick stage, but first the Rutherford engine on the second stage will throttle down before shutting off completely to allow for a clean separation. We call this SECO, or second engine cutoff, and this separation of the stages will place the kick stage in an elliptical orbit around the Earth for a coasting period of around 40 minutes or so. After that, the kick stage's Curie engine will ignite to circularize the orbit around the planet before the payload is deployed.
Guidance is in terminal, 6 seconds remaining.
SECO confirmed.
Stage 3 separation confirmed. And nominal transfer orbit is achieved.
And there's a call from Mission Control. The Rutherford engine on the second stage has successfully shut down as planned, and the kick stage has cleanly separated. As I mentioned before, the kick stage will now enter that coasting phase around the Earth for about 40 minutes until it reaches the best position for a Curie engine burn to deliver the satellite on board closer to its final orbit. We won't have video of that payload deployment, but it should look something like this. Keep an eye out on our social media channels for news of payload deployment within the next hour. So this is our last launch for 2020, but if you're looking for a new challenge in 2021, we're actively recruiting for close to 100 roles across all aspects of the business. If you think you've got what it takes to launch rockets and put satellites on orbit, then check out the careers section of our website at rocketlabusa.com. Now, before we close out tonight's webcast, I'd like to take a moment to thank our mission partner, Synspective, for entrusting us with the first satellite of their constellation. It's an honor to work with such an inspiring and innovative organization and to be providing them with dedicated access to orbit. We'd also like to thank each and every one of our mission partners this year. We're grateful for your steadfast support, and we're proud to have continued delivering access to space throughout a challenging year globally. Last but not least, thank you to every one of you who tuned in or followed along on our 7 Electron launches this year. Space has a special way of bringing people together, and we're grateful to be part of such a passionate, curious, and supportive community worldwide. We can't wait to be back with you earlier in the new year to kick off an even bigger 2021. We're looking forward to many more launches and Photon missions, our first mission to the moon for NASA, which will be really cool, continuing to develop Electron as a reusable launch vehicle, and so much more. Without a doubt, it's going to be our biggest year yet. So from all of us here at Rocket Lab, thank you for joining us for today's broadcast, and happy holidays to you all. This is Rocket Lab Mission Control, signing off for 2020.
That's the way being is made up.
Good evening and welcome to the live broadcast of Rocket Lab's final mission for the year, a dedicated launch for Synspective. Tonight's mission will be our 7th Electron flight this year and our 17th mission overall. My name is Max Muncy. I'm a data analyst here at Rocket Lab, and it's great to be joining you once again from Rocket Lab's Mission Control Center here in Auckland. This is a live view of Electron on the pad at Launch Complex 1 as it awaits its 11:09 p.m. New Zealand time launch. We're just 15 minutes away from liftoff as our launch operations team completes their final reviews and checks for liftoff. The weather is looking clear and all systems are currently go for an on-time launch this evening. Our mission requirements dictate we have an instantaneous launch window tonight, which means we only have a single moment in time for a viable liftoff. If we need to stand down for any reason, we do have plenty of backup opportunities over the next few days. Before we get stuck in today's mission, let's take a look back at our last launch, which lifted off just 25 days ago and raised $286,000 for Starship Children's Hospital here in Auckland. So let's take a look. That mission launched just a few weeks ago and carried 30 satellites to orbit, bringing our total number of satellites deployed to 95. We're looking forward to making that 96 tonight, but for now I'll leave you with these views of Electron and I'll be back with you shortly with an update on the weather. So we're now at T-minus 13 minutes, and all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this evening. The weather is looking good and trending green, and our operators are tracking no issues in these critical minutes before launch. Right now, we're just T-minus 12 minutes away from our targeted launch time. Let's listen into Mission Control as they conduct their final health checks on Electron systems.
All right. In all stations LD on mission, we are now proceeding with the go-no-go sequence. Stage, how you go?
Stages go.
Avionics?
Avionics is go.
AFTS?
AFTS is go.
GNC?
GNC is go.
Recon?
Recon is go.
T1?
T1 is go.
GC?
GC is go.
PLS is go.
RSO?
RSO is go.
Met is go.
MM?
MM is go.
LD sub?
LD sub go.
Exec?
Exec is go.
All stations, that's go, no go sequence complete. We're currently T-minus 11 minutes, 14 seconds and counting. We go for the terminal count at T-minus 10 minutes. From this time, the three-word procedure is in effect.
And you've heard it there, our operators and launch vector have confirmed Electron is go for launch. We're at T-minus 10 minutes before target liftoff, which should give us some time to talk about the customer on board. Tonight we'll be launching the Strix Alpha satellite for a Japanese company called Synspective, which specializes in synthetic aperture radar data and solutions, also known as SAR. If you're wondering why we named the mission The Owl's Night Begins, the clue is in the name of the Synspective satellite, Strix, which happens to be the genus of owls. The satellite launch today will be the first of Synspective's planned constellation of around 30 SAR satellites. The satellites are designed to provide images that show millimeter-level changes to the Earth's surface from space, through clouds, and at any time of day or night. Because it's so accurate and available in all weather, SAR data has a wide range of uses, including urban development planning, construction and infrastructure monitoring, and even disaster response. Synspective also recently announced a land displacement monitoring service that detects land variations using their SAR data, which can be particularly useful in things like planning construction projects. Advanced satellite-based solutions like these will continue to grow at today's launch. Here's a little bit more about that company, Synspective.
What do you see? The state of our world? The effect of our actions? The future of our planet? The world is full of uncertainty when we can't see what's hidden. Synspective helps you see in both day and night, through cloud and rain, with Synspective, you can see whenever, wherever. We turn the world into the information you want and need by making things visible. With Synspective, you can see the future. When you see things clearly, you can see the way forward. You can see the risks.
Anti-gathering disabled.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 are at pressure.
High flow engine purge is enabled. Deluge is activated.